they didn't just get there overnight. It took years, and we don't want to be in that boat. You know, we want to stay where we're at. We want to be able to keep this city, the city that we've been accustomed to for the last 50 years. So I just ask that you consider that when you vote on this budget this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bless you.
Good evening. I'm
evening.
Jim Hill, the Warren Firefighters, Local 1383. I'm the Secretary of the Union. First, I'd like to start off saying the Warren Fire Department is the greatest fire department in the state. These are difficult budget times for all of us. But as a firefighter of this city and sworn to serve citizens of Warren, what I constantly hear is from our commissioners and appointed staff is, I've deleted this position and I'm not going to fill that position. But to what cost is this? Is to the safety of the citizens of Warren. When do we finally make a stand and say no? The people of Warren deserve these basic services. The fire department is the cornerstone of public safety, and the firefighter scope of work has grown during these troubled economic times. In 2004, our staffing was 176, and today it's 112. We have also added a premier EMS transport system, a tech rescue division, specializing in confined space rescue, collapse rescue, rope and trench rescue, also a paramedic SWAT team. We're doing more with less, like everyone says, but in order to maintain this, what we need is adequate funding and support from the council and the mayor. And if we have that, we'll be able to continue to serve the citizens of Warren like we do every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dale Walker. I'm a lifelong resident, and I am an employee of DPW. In this year's proposed budget, you guys are proposing to cut 3 of our positions from our job. As many of you guys know, over the last 8 years...
I'm sorry, some people are having trouble hearing you. Can you speak just a little louder?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
As many of you guys know, over the last 8 years, we've lost 12 positions from our department alone. As it was said earlier, we're the people that get that phone call in the middle of the night and get the roads cleared for you guys. Myself, I'm a father of 5 children. That phone rings, I get up, I go, I plow the roads. Make sure roads are safe, make sure everything's done. We do lots of other things, coal patch, the holes, many jobs. We barely made it through this winter with 20 employees. If you guys cut us the extra 3 employees, I don't know if the citizens are going to get the service that they're accustomed to. We had help from other departments during the heavy snows. It works out, but you're not always going to get it. You know, you don't have the people that are used to operating the equipment. They're there every day. They're trained on the equipment. I just think if you guys cut the employees with this proposed budget, I think that our department's really going to suffer, and I think the citizens will end up suffering services. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Tom Kitner. Given the limitations of a depressed economy, average people are taking great pains to balance their finances. Fairness and common sense dictate that elected officials do the same. We should be especially concerned about government deficit spending, a key issue that's turning everyday citizens into patriots, as the people demand fiscal responsibility from the politicians. A financial crisis of disastrous proportions at the national level, where every dollar Congress spends is borrowed, has transformed America into a debt recycling machine. This crisis has trickled down to the state level, where our leaders are attempting to remedy a $2 billion deficit. We're seeing the elimination of film credits, reduced funding to local skills and universities, and cuts to state employee pay and benefits. There are protests at the state capitol and threats to recall the governor, but at least at the state level, they're attempting to cut the deficit. At the city level, all seems well, so long as you pay attention to the news reports generated by the administration's propaganda machine, which pumps out more city newsletters and press releases than do the publicists for Lady Gaga. But here in Warren, a reading of the proposed 2011 to 2012 budget reveals a $12 million structural deficit as expenditures far exceed revenues. This year, we're going to spend $12 million more than we're bringing in. So what is the mayor's economic antidepressant? a proposed money grab from the district court, an ill-conceived financial Band-Aid which misuses revenue from the court's building fund, a fund made possible by increased traffic fines. At its best, telling the public that raised ticket prices are for building a new district court while raiding the court's special fund to balance the budget is a broken promise to motorists. At its best. At its worst, it is fraud. But it's an election year, and we know what that means. No tough decisions by the administration because their focus is on re-election. Steal from the court fund, spend the savings, and kick the can down the road until next year. But what will they do the year after, when their spendthrift policies leave them without funds to rob? As you remember, in 2010, I led the first successful voter initiative in our city's history. As a result, council's future budget will be slashed considerably by the elimination of 2 of its members. Last year, the people fixed what council wouldn't. This year, the onus is on the members of this body to initiate positive change. It's doubtful that over 50 years ago, when our charter was modeled after Detroit, now a failed city, its writers could foresee a time when the powers they entrusted to the mayor's office would be financially ruinous. More cuts from council won't be enough to reverse the deficit. City Council has the ability and obligation to fix our city's financial woes by initiating not a charter amendment, but a comprehensive charter revision. Balancing the budget by balancing bureaucratic power is the duty of this council. Perhaps it's time to consider a city manager form of government rather than a form of government which is represented by strong mayoral powers. Please don't let us down. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Joe Dabrowski. As you all know, I sat through and I taped all of the budget meetings, as I've done for the last few years, and I found a few things pretty interesting. We actually had a department head say that they felt they deserved a raise in these times. And I found that absolutely appalling that she would even say that. Because I'm sure there are plenty of employees in the city who deserve a raise. But the fact that this person would even say that to me, was just absolutely disgusting. That she would implore you guys to give her a raise. Very disturbing. But I think what needs to happen in this budget is you guys need to hold the line and not buckle. You need to make this a line item budget. You need to stop laying off people, because the cry has been we're losing jobs, we're losing jobs, we're losing jobs. And yet this city for the last several years has participated in those festivities year after year after year. Eventually, we have to stop. You cannot stop cutting people. You know what? They may not like it, but people are going to have to take some pay cuts and share the pain that way to keep some of their people so that they don't eliminate all the services. Find some more creative ways to save money. I heard things like we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on computers and telephones, and it's with the excuse, oh, the DDA paid for this and the DDA paid for that. We've been hearing these excuses year after year after year. And now let's take all the money from the court fund. Well, somebody came up with a good compromise. Let's take a little bit to help shore that up. Well, then their answer is they're going to be petty and say, okay, you take the money, we'll stop collecting it. These aren't childhood games we're playing here. You know, we're going to take some of the money to shore up our budget problem, and then their answer is they're going to stop collecting it. I told you guys a while ago I didn't think it was right that East Point and some of the other cities are collecting money when the police stop you and they come for an accident. What our court is doing, to me, in essence, is the same exact thing. But for them to say, if you take the money to shore up the budget, we're going to stop collecting it, is ridiculous. But I don't think taking that money is a long-term solution to the problem. And the last thing is, all these budget meetings have been videoed, so if anybody wants a copy, you can contact me on my cell phone, and I'll be more than happy to make sure that you get a copy of it. And the last thing is, I noticed when I was going through the agendas, you guys didn't cover the council office budget, you didn't cover the planning commission budget, and you didn't cover the ZBA budget. So you need to look into those items and make some major cuts there. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dean Barry, longtime resident. Well, there you have it, folks. The entire Warren Tea Party showed up tonight, and they all fit in one chair. And you believe that. Now he wants to change from mayor to a city manager. I hope this time, when that petition comes around, we don't fall for it again, now will we? Because this last endeavor is going to cause more problems. And anybody listening at home, nothing out of that man's mouth should ever be trusted. Not for what he did to this city. And you let him get away with it, you five.
Good evening.
Good evening, I'm Kyle Adkins, taxpayer Warren. We was talking about the budget. I'd like to drop something on your mind. The more problems you have and the less people you have, the more problems you have.
Good point.
But with our DPW, if you recall last year, we had a lot of snow, did we not? And guess what? With the help that we had with the DPW, everybody knows where Federal Street is south of 9 Mile. It's going to run right down beside the school. It probably went at least 3 days before that street was plowed. And guess what? This little hillbilly got stuck right in the middle of it. Tore the exhaust off of my car. It cost me $100 to put the exhaust back on my car. I said that to say this. If you're going to cut out some of these appointees after appointees after appointees, why does any part of the city need a half a dozen bosses? I don't think we do. And that would be my suggestion. Instead of cutting the people's wages that's out here doing the work, sort of tie on to the ones that's making 70 and 80 and 90 and 100,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of Council and citizens of Warren, good evening. My name is Eugene Sawyer. I attended the budget meeting last Tuesday where the mayor presented his budget. And frankly, I'm disappointed in most of you people for going into a hardball league with a softball attitude. The only person that, to me, that actually asked a question of any value was Mr. Liss. What happened to $11 million, the shortfall of $11 million?